Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Founder Wisdom Podcast. Today we have Thayer Hirsh with us. He is the founder of Knome Technology. Thayer, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Knome?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, it's Thayer, kind of a weird name, but I am the co-founder of Knome Technologies. We just go by Knome, and what we're trying to do is build a customized instruction manual for every home in America. So, a problem I saw when I first bought my home was I was super excited, put a bunch of money down, my basement leaked, my furnace broke, I had a hole in my roof, and there was no information to really find out there. My vacuum cleaner comes with an instruction manual. My car tells me how often I need to get maintenance, but there's nothing for my home. So right now, my partner and I are building an app. We have one in both Android and Apple App Store, and we put together customized maintenance lists for your home. So you get proactive reminders, you get tips for upgrades, you can find local vendors, and then capture all that information, put notes, photos, and then things we're working on are things like budgeting. So sure, you buy your home, but a lot of people don't know that you should be setting aside about $1 for every $1,000 your home's worth in maintenance every year. So if you own a $500,000 home, you should be putting about $5,000 in every year to maintain it. So we're going to help you budget that too.
Cool. That's pretty cool. Back in days when I was doing Facebook ads for some companies, one of my clients was developing the exact same concept. Not sure if the lights are still on his side, but do you have competition? Like, do you have other companies trying to build the same that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So yes, there are a number of competitors. We think we found a pretty interesting niche. So there's companies called like HomeZada, I believe. There's one like Upkeep. There's a number out there of apps that you can customize yourself. But what we're trying to do is utilize AI to customize it for new home buyers. So when they move in day one, they have all their information right there. And we can glean that from property records, inspection records, construction records, a number of different files. So it is personalized for you with little input by the homeowner themselves.
That's pretty cool. What are the common problems with a house? You just mentioned like 5 or 10K a month. That seems to be a lot to me, like to invest that amount.
Yeah, per year.
Oh, per year.
Sorry, per year.
Okay, yeah, like yeah, that makes a bit more sense. But even then, like what are the common problems that homeowners face when they buy a new house?
Yeah, and I want to say every region in the US or the world is different. Like we were talking about before, I'm up in the mountains. For example, ice damming is a big thing on roofs here. People, if they don't properly maintain it, you get thick ice dams. You're not going to get that in Miami, Florida, but you're going to get flooding down there, mold issues. But back to your question, some of the biggest things are roofs. Incredibly expensive. They usually have a 20 to 30-year lifespan. With hailstorms and all these other things, those are shortening that. But they can cost $30,000-$40,000 for a single family home. So that's a lot of money to come up when it's actually, you have to put a new roof in. And that's why I want to really work on that budgeting. Other things are heating and cooling. So your average furnace lasts about 10 to 15 years and can cost about 10 grand to replace. If you have boilers like you probably do in Montreal and here in Colorado, it'd be 20 grand to replace.
Wow. That's a lot of money. And I have my own thesis about like the real estate market and all of these things. Me personally, I still get off on renting like nice Airbnbs on a monthly basis. Yes, I don't own an asset, and yes, the bank is more likely to loan you money and obviously can sell off your house and make a bunch of money with it, like my friends did. For example, they bought houses when COVID began, and the crazy real estate market that is Montreal. I mean, the sky's the price is 1.5x, almost 2x. So that's pretty nice. But I'm still like hearing you right now. I'm like, shit, should I even invest in a house? I mean, there's obviously more problems in a house that is not new than a new one. So like for new buyers, would you
Yeah.
advise to buy a new house and avoid all of these problems, or yeah, just buy a used house and probably use your app, for example, to track how much you should pay on a yearly basis?
So I'm gonna give you like a little anecdote here.
Yeah.
Might not apply to everybody, but so my wife and I were living in a studio apartment in downtown Denver, and this is in 2013, and we
Hmm.
were looking to buy our home, and we did the same thing. We're like, let's buy a new home. We don't want to maintain an old home, and of course, we moved in. I think I told you 3 weeks later, our basement flooded. There were
Oh.
all these problems that
Mm.
we thought we were going to avoid. So with a new home, no one's actually lived in it to test it out, right?
Hmm.
Where an old home, someone's gone through the issues, hopefully
Mm.
addressed them correctly. So really it's a 50-50. If if it's a brand new home, you can probably try to work with a contractor on that
Hmm.
issue.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't advise either one. I would find the home that makes sense for you.
Okay.
Typically though, new homes will have fewer maintenance items that you have to take care of.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, my parents did the same back in days, or I think it was a used one, but they had flooding problems, and it's pretty much horrible with the mold and all of that.
Yeah.
It makes one's life pretty much hell. Um,
Yeah.
so, like, how? I mean, I think there's insurance to prevent, like floods and the roof from falling over your head. There's insurance for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an insurance expert, but here in the United States, you have insurance, for example, water damage. That would, if there's a pipe suddenly burst, you're covered
Hmm.
from that. Or sometimes you get sewer backup insurance. But if it's a flood, like we see increasingly with kind of global warming going on
Hmm.
now, outside, you have to get separate. So, say that pond in your backyard started creeping
Hmm.
up and got into your house
Hmm.
on a typical insurance package, you're not covered from that. You have to get a special kind of flood insurance rider, which can be pretty expensive.
Hmm. And with your app, with Gnome, I would basically check like all the stuff that could go bad and how much it would cost me on a yearly basis to prevent all of that BS from happening, right?
Yeah, and I want to say, we want to mitigate chance as much as we can of things happening like that, of things going catastrophically, of what to look for when a pipe might be slowly leaking, right?
Mm.
Or how to prevent a backup sewer drain from happening, right? How do we
Okay.
check for roots going into your sewer pipe?
Hmm.
What happens if there's a slow leak in your attic? Because
Mm.
those can go from small, tiny little issues into very, very expensive ones if you don't nip it in the bud.
And most of the tips that you give, it's for the homeowner themselves to do it. It's not to hire someone to do it for them, right?
So we do a little both. So we have ones that are DIY,
Hmm.
and then if they're not, so for example, if you wanted to get your boiler checked up, which we recommend every 1 to 2 years,
Hmm.
we'll provide a connection to a contractor in that local area who can get that done for you.
Hmm.
And our
What?
hope in the future is kind of aggregate all these services and provide
Yep.
discounts to the
Okay.
homeowners.
Yeah, yeah, that's a model as well that I was checking with my client back in days. And if you refer them, what cut would you take them of their services? For example, I refer them, and okay, like oh, you can get 10% off, and then you would take another 10, which would mean 20% for them to be referred in your platform. Would this be a little bit how it would work?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We would take some sort of referral fee and pass on a discount to the customer too.
Okay, pretty cool. I'm
Yeah.
also aware, like in your app, basically you can suggest improvements. What is the best investment one can make in his property? Because, for example, I don't mind spending 10K a year. If it increases the value of my property by two. But so every 10K
Right.
that I spend, I'll get like 10K back. What are the best improvements that I could have done in my house, for example, to get more value?
Right. So, I mean, this all depends on your budget. Anytime you can easily add square footage, do that. So, if you have a half finished attic or a basement, finishing that out is going to be amazing return on your money.
Okay.
Uh, Similar if you can add a bedroom or a bathroom. I had a house, the one we sold with the leaky basement. We had a basement there that did have an egress window and it had a bathroom, and we put in a Murphy bed because it was also kind of a rec room there.
Mm.
And we were able to go from a 2-bedroom home and as a 3-bedroom home, which is added tens of thousands of dollars in value on the resale, and really only cost us about $500 to add that Murphy bed. If you're not familiar, Murphy bed's one of those ones that fold from the wall
Yeah,
down.
yeah, I had one of these. When I was living in my parents' basement. That was my bed. So yeah, they're pretty cool. What's
Yeah,
the future like of real estate? You know, the last exciting stuff in real estate, in my opinion, was Airbnb. In
yeah,
the world of SaaS. Then we've seen on Product Hunt some products that were kind of very cool in my opinion, which is that, you know, in Silicon Valley they have like small backyards, and then they add a little hut in there, a guest to make a guest house, you know. And I think you had to pay like 20K to have it built there, and then they can have it financed, you know, so you can split the cost with the company. That was exciting to me. What is the next frontier here? What is the next exciting thing in real estate?
that's a great question. Look, I'm going to throw something out, and we know it's probably going to be wrong because it's a prediction. I think we're going to see a lot more prefab.
Okay.
Is my guess. So
Mm,
prefabrication, something built in a warehouse or a factory, there's a lot more efficiencies. So both from how much material you're using, the workers in there are in a conditioned space. They don't bring a pickup truck on site and work in snow. So you
mm,
can build cheaper and then transport that to that location. And then at the same time, you can build a much better home because it's under controlled environment. So you're going to have
mm,
environmentally, it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a tighter home, and you can provide a lot more features that way. I think we're going to
mm.
see more and more of that coming up.
Yeah, and the company just mentioned that they were doing prefab as well, so they were checking that box too. But I'm curious yet because in down in Quebec we have this company. They do prefab, and they never really were popular. I think
Right.
they were targeting. Well, I mean, popular. They're very successful in their own way, and because I've heard of them. But I think they were targeting lower classes with these kinds of house. Why do you think these types of prefab haven't hit the mainstream right now? Why do you think like people just don't buy more of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's a lot of issues, right? I think there's kind of that mentality of like prefab is what you think of like a trailer or a double wide, right? Those are kind of the prefabs.
Mhm.
Um, so there's a mentality of getting over prefab is not lower quality; it can be a lot higher
Mhm.
quality.
Mhm.
And this is back a long time ago. I lived in Boulder, Colorado, and worked in the solar industry. And we
Mhm.
had a home there that came in. I think it was 6 shipments from Germany. It was built in Germany. They
Wow.
could pressurize it. So I mean, walls that were this thick, and they could close the front door, which had I think it was like 6 locks going that way and a couple going up. They could pressurize the house to 140 psi, and it ended up being like a $4 million home. And
Wow.
that's just an example of we just got to get over that prefab is not lower quality, it's higher quality. There
Yeah.
is, of course, just the distribution is probably going to be the hardest thing to overcome. So you have a plant in, for example, where I live, you have one in Denver, but how are you going to get it up here in the mountains? You got to
Mm.
close highways and figure out how we can efficiently move those pieces.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, like I think that the future of real estate to me is like dramatically lowering the cost of buying a house. Do you think that with prefab we could like slash the price? I mean, the real estate market is a bubble in itself. I've been in it
Mhm.
like serving a bunch of realtors for like at least 3 to 4 years of my life, and you know it's very much speculatory. Um, do you
Right.
think there will be a point in history, let's say like in 50 year, in which I'll be able to buy a house, let's say in the States for like 20,000 bucks?
Um, so that's a great question. I think you could buy in the future a tiny home with no land, probably for I'm going to guess more like $50 to $100,000.
Mm,
But you could have like a very nice, small tight home for that much.
I
That's
still just don't
prefab.
understand the economics of, like why would one pay for 50 to 100K? I mean, yeah, you need to buy the terrain, the field, but that's from the municipalities, they decide the price. But then if you speak about, woods and wood and all of these things, if you replace the human cost inside it, I'm pretty sure we can get down to very low prices. And if I had to launch a startup in that field, that's what I'd do. I'd probably get a horde of drones and 3D print these houses with some
Yeah.
plastic-like material, and sell houses for like $200 literally, and make a housing like available for everyone. Not sure if I'd make a buck out of it. I mean, I could sell a bunch of other things, right? Like Starlink connections and
Yeah.
electricity and all of that. But I think like there needs to come a point in time in history where housing is affordable to all. Because if you think about it, modern times, like we have food at our hand. Like food is very very cheap. Like here
Right.
in Mexico, I can eat under $1 per day or something like that.
Right.
Sure, it's not like highest quality food. I'd probably be like rice and eggs or something like that. But I can get food. I can get water. I can get all my basic human needs met, clothing included, right? I can get warmth, but I cannot get housing in our modern
Right.
times, and I feel that someone needs to crack it.
Right. I mean, I think, look, yeah, you have a lot of great points there. I was going to kind of jump back. They are starting to 3D print with concrete, which I think is a
Mm-hmm.
really cool technology, and I'd love to see that take off.
Hmm.
But you're right, housing costs have to come down. They've, especially the past couple of years, they've doubled, tripled in some places. I live in a location where housing is really hard. It's shot up, and most people who work here locally, it's hard to afford.
Hmm.
And really, that's become like a land issue more than like the housing materials themselves.
Hmm.
So when there's limited, finite resources in land, we got to learn how to build up. And I think there's a mentality in America of we need single family homes with picket fence and a quarter acre of grass.
Hmm.
And those are thoughts that we need to kind of change and have tighter communities. Community I live in is the houses are all very close together, and they encourage walking, and it's close
Hmm.
to the school, so you don't have to get in your car and things like that. Um, Hopefully, we're seeing a lot of changes around that. But you're right; like we need to have tighter communities. The U.S. is definitely unique in that aspect. I think a lot of other, Mexico City, look how large that is and densely populated, and but still very livable.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know.
Because
I would love to see someone who's brilliant. Maybe Elon could
Elon, yeah,
could figure out how to tackle this.
yeah, Elon's probably gonna tackle that one too. Because I mean, if you think about it, it's like the municipality, so like that's the government, right?
Mhm.
And they a macro trend over the next 10, 15, 20 years, in my opinion, government are gonna lose their power more and more. We're realizing more and more that taxation is BS, and they don't allocate the resources properly. It's not politicians, just like humans as a whole. The
Mhm.
system's not working. Sovereign Individuals, a nice book to read on the topic with crypto and all that. And then the other thing that's still on my mind, regarding VR, for example. Will it be like Ready Player One, in which I'll be in a very small shack, but I'll have
Right.
this headset and I'll be in my mansion, once I'll put my headset. So why would I care to buy lots of land? What do you think about that? Would that be a reality in say 20 to 30 years from now?
Yeah, my wife and I were talking about that. So, could you move to some place? Let's say, no offense to Kansas, but move out to where land is cheap. You could live in a nice home, whatever.
Yeah.
But hey, there's no concerts nearby. There's no places for skiing or anything. But could
Hmm.
you jump into the metaverse and experience that? Connect with people who aren't even close to you? I do think that is probably part of the solution. Maybe not for everyone, but I think for a lot of people. we could cut down on housing that way and still have people connect. I mean, look how much we've done with just business in the past 2 years, right? Since COVID hit. The economic collapse, yes, we had like stock market went way down. We had a recession, but we rebounded really quickly once we realized business can operate. A lot of businesses, that is, can operate remotely really well. And I think we're going to see that for, can utilize really well remotely.
We've gone like to the future pretty quick. That's my bad. Like my mind is often in the very far future. I want to come back a bit more to Knome. I have a couple of questions. First thing first, where did you meet your co-founder Ted?
Yeah, so Ted Coleman and I worked for a startup back in 2015 called Parkify that made smart parking sensors that were either put on the surface of a parking lot or embedded in the asphalt that could detect if a car was there. We'd aggregate that data and give that back to the client. We had like local parking lots, we have universities, we had a number of U.S. governmental entities, I guess, interested in that technology. I was up there till we got acquired by Dish Network.
Okay.
So Ted and I worked. He was our lead senior developer. I was head of operations there, and we bonded there. We always got on to work again together. And back in the 2020, we got to talking quite a bit and joined forces.
So how do you guys mix up together? You're more of the business operations guy, and he is in charge of building the actual product?
That's correct. Yep. That's exactly right. So, right, I do strategy, operations. Ted also does a lot of kind of product strategy. And then we lean on, he builds that out. This was actually his first mobile development. Okay. We're developing it in React, so we can push to both Android and Apple, which has been awesome. And, we do some subcontracting here and there for some development help and product help and things like that. We rely on our network that we've kind of built up through a number of startups over the years.
It's pretty cool. Kind of the 1-2 punch combo. I'm curious to see like what are the tips that you have for other co-founders to maintain a dynamic, growing relationship with your co-founder?
Yeah, God, that's a great question, right? So, I mean, foremost, like honesty. You got to trust each other, because as soon as someone doesn't trust the other one or doesn't feel like they're pulling their weight, the company's going to go down. So Ted and I, we maintain at least once a week, we talk to each other, a one-on-one. It's not, there's no like power balance or any imbalance there. We talk about our concerns, where we want to see the company go, how can we make a pivot. So that's really important there.
Have you guys pivoted
and I think
yet?
it's just respect. What's that?
Have you guys pivoted yet?
We have actually. So beginning of 2021, we started a company called HomeCheck.
Yeah.
And what we were doing, so what we were doing, we're on like fully on-demand services so we're focused in the local neighborhood here and in Denver. And what we do is go in and we do a home inspection, build out everything like the task list we're doing now. But we did that, subcontract that out with home inspectors. And then people had the option there to hit one click to get it done. And I thought it worked really well. We got really good revenue. I mean, we're getting over close to $1,500, I think, in revenue per client. However, with this labor crunch that we've seen, it was really hard to get contractors, and we became more of this kind of general contractor middleman. And so we did Knome, pivoted to Knome, and kind of said, can we have a bigger audience and pay and have a subscription fee model instead.
Tell me more about that labor crunch.
Yeah. So finding blue collar qualified contractors is really hard.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. So if you're a contractor, I was an electrician at one point in my life. You want to work on not just kind of the job that's going to take you 2 hours and then you got to drive to the next one. you
Yeah.
want to find that new construction build, you can be there for weeks at a time, right?
Okay.
And right now there's a lot of building going on. So to get contractors
Mm-hmm.
out for a leaky pipe or install a smart water shutoff or whatever it is, most of them will just say, no, thanks.
Okay.
And we kept running into that.
Wow. That's well. I mean, during the pandemic, in Quebec, Canada, was very hard to get your house built. My parents were getting built during that time, and they really had to wrestle to get the guy to actually build the house, which is crazy.
Right.
How could that be solved? Just having more labor, I would guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting, right? More labor, but it's not easy. You can't just be like, hey, I'm going to be a plumber tomorrow, right? That takes years of training and learnings and like in the field.
Mm.
So, we definitely need to encourage people to do more trades. I mean, they pay well. Um, a lot of the plumbers up here are charging minimum $150 an hour. Sometimes $250 an hour. Getting close to kind of consulting and lawyer rates there.
Yeah, it's
So I think
crazy.
we need to encourage people to go there.
Yeah.
And our app, what we want to try to do is help the independent contractors out there. So the ones
Hmm.
who don't have someone who can bid on multiple projects, but we can aggregate a lot of those smaller projects together in a close geographic region. So they could go around and do your furnace checkup, do 1 hour, and then only have to drive 5 minutes down the road to do the next one instead of across town that might take half hour or an hour. So we
Hmm.
can aggregate those services, provide greater efficiencies to those independent contractors.
Okay. And how many customers, how many users does Knome have?
Yeah. So right now we launched in April. We launched our beta test with uh, 38 users right there. Now our main target is actually realtors. So we want
Okay.
realtors to pay for the service,
Hmm.
and there they get the branding within there. We just kicked that off, and right now we have let's see, I think 37 on our wait list right now.
Okay. 37 on your waitlist. So the model would be that you would provide these realtors with the information of potential new buyers. Is that it?
No, not quite. So they essentially gift the app
Yeah.
to their clients. So when they
Okay.
buy their new home, they get that. Inside they
Okay.
have the app is branded for the realtor.
Okay. Got it.
So they're staying in constant connection. We can run campaigns. They can stay top of mind.
So that would be added value. That would be just another reason why they should deal with this realtor vs the other, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool. How are you reaching these realtors? Because they were my clients for quite a while, and the main reason why actually they were my realtors for that much time was that they were so easy to reach. Their information was directly there on some websites. I just had to scrape it, and then they always answer their cell phones. So how do you get
Right.
in touch with them?
But like how have we been doing our business development? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yes.
So we've been just word of mouth right now in these kind of initial phases as we test everything out. But we did a LinkedIn post I think a week or two ago, and we just had a number of people just go there and sign up. So I think I'm not going to speak for realtors, but they seem really eager to embrace technology and looking for a way to really distinguish themselves from the competition. How can they provide greater value after the close?
So where do you see your app slash Gnome? Where do you see it in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So, I mean, our goal is we want to reach at least 1% of realtors, excuse me, 0.1% of realtors nationwide. Um, that's our kind of like low growth right there. So that'd be 5,000 realtors. And we
5,000.
think
So
that's honestly
so there's
pretty
like
attainable.
5 million realtors in the US, or
There's 5 million realtors in the US.
holy
And in
smokes.
2021, they sold 6.2 million homes.
That's a lot of realtors. There's so many realtors. It's pretty much like astounding to me. Same in Quebec, Canada. Do you think that will reduce over time with apps slash websites that are realtor less, with sell without a realtor?
Oh, that's a very like, so the kind of like buy from Zillow, sort of that
Yeah,
robo buying
yeah,
program. I
yeah,
mean, so I've been predicting. I just thought the realtor model was kind of broken and seemed not broken, but it seemed obsolete, right?
yeah.
And it was interesting to see Zillow come out, and
Mm.
they bought a number of homes here in Colorado and lost a ton of money on it. And that was in
Yes,
a
they
hot
did.
market.
Yeah.
And I was astounded because I was like, oh, they're buying low, they're going to sell high. We're seeing 5% every month growth
Mm.
in home prices here, and somehow they still lost money.
Mm.
So it's going to be a little while, I think, before the robo really takes off. At least probably another 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thayer, we're ending this podcast here. We only have like a minute left. I had two
Yeah.
questions left for you. If you would
Yeah.
have one piece of advice to give to the founders, what would it be?
To other founders,
Yeah.
believe in yourself. I know it's kind of cheesy, but you're going to go through, I go through emotional waves, right? All the time where you're like, this is the best product ever, to, something might happen. You run into a roadblock and you're like, oh God, what am I doing? Believe in yourself. Uh, People, find a good support network that you can talk to too. Whether that's like a mentor or a friend that you can bounce ideas off of and get encouragement, but really believe in yourself.
Very good advice. Last question for you. Where can people find out more about you and Knome?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are at My Knome. That's spelled MYKNOME.com. So myknome.com.
All right. Thank you, Thayer. It was
Hey,
wonderful.
Charles, I appreciate it, man.
Have a good day, man.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Bye bye.